You can't always.
This is the death
Remarkably empty.
Turn back towards God. Rise up.
When I was 10 years old, my parents divorced. My dad was out of the picture. I lived with my grandparents pretty much my whole life. At school, I always suffered with bullying. I felt like I was always getting attacked. Friends that I was with at school introduced me to illegal drugs. It was a way to escape the reality that I was living. I felt alone. I felt like nothing could help me, especially in high school, in those moments where I wanted to die almost. That's how broken I was. That's how hurt I was. I was just a mess. What I was feeling, it was like the devil had my soul. I was raised as a Catholic. My mum and dad divorced when I was around 10 years old. I lived with my grandparents pretty much my whole life. I remember having my first Holy Communion, my reconciliation, my confirmation, all at Ashfield, in the St. Vincent's Church there, which was, I still remember these vividly, these experiences of God and knowing that there's a God that I can talk to, and He's my Father, and going to a Catholic school, I suppose they talk about God and we hear about God, but you don't experience it as a child. It's just something that you're told to believe, this is your God, this is where you're from, but you go home and this is your home as well, and this is where you come from, and there's two foundations that as a child we don't really understand it as a complete depth. There was always this beautiful joy growing up in my family, and love, and in that chaos there was always peace somehow, in a happily disorganized way. When I was around 7 years old, I was molested by someone in the family, and obviously being a child, it's something you don't really understand. It's like you're a child, you don't even question these things as a child. And so that happened through many years throughout my life, up until I was about 12, 13, so I was in high school. And it wasn't just me that it actually happened to, it was also my cousin, who also, we lived together in a massive house in Campsie. We found out it happened to both of us at a young age as well. So when we did discover it happened to us, it was sort of children don't understand these things, like especially at 7 years old, you're not supposed to understand, that barrier. So when we were talking about it to each other at such a young age, she's only a year older than me, it continued until my cousin, she was the one that came forward with it, with the family, and then obviously that's when it came to an end, because it was still happening. And I think being children and something that makes you feel afraid not to say anything, you just don't. You don't say anything. You freeze. So many years when this was happening, we were frozen. We were that's it. There was this war, and something that continued to happen until we were old enough to understand, hey, this isn't right. But I still had that fear of not being able to speak or say anything. There was just this trauma, there's this wall, there was this barrier that I couldn't break through. And she obviously said something which I'm grateful for. You know, obviously there was a reason God intervened at that time. Maybe he knows why. But then that's when things took a different turn in my life. When I was 10 years old, my parents divorced, so my dad was out of the picture. Gratefully, growing up in that Catholic faith, I had a relationship with God. It might have not been the best relationship, but I knew that there was a God, and I always prayed. I always talked to him like a father, but I couldn't hear anything back. But in my heart, I knew that he could hear me, you know, and sometimes when I was alone or going home from school, I would talk to God or say, in my own way, like just asking him to help me or get me through the feelings I was feeling. So when I was in high school, I wasn't the best child. A lot of people saw me, especially teachers, they would say to me all the time, well, why can't you be like your cousin? And I'm like, well, I'm not her. I wouldn't say it that nicely. I probably was a little bit more vague. I was always like with my shoulders shrugged. I was just, if someone with authority tried to talk to me, I just didn't want to listen to them because I felt like I was always getting attacked. High school for me, I was very troubled. Thinking about it now, I was psychologically just a mess. And the teachers did not, it's not their fault. They didn't get what was going on in my head or in my heart or in my soul. They didn't understand this burden, this trauma that I had to walk with every day. And sometimes I didn't even understand it because I just pushed it always down, or I suppressed it. And so going through high school, I didn't have one high school, I had three, you know. And when I was in year 9, because I was such a mess, I was a disturbance pretty much in classrooms, because if the teacher asked me to do something, I wouldn't listen to them. If I was rude, I would answer back. So I obviously got sent out of the classroom a lot. And at one stage in year 9, they actually asked me to leave the school, but they wanted me to stay, but they wanted me to leave. But if they wanted me to stay, then I had to change, and I wasn't ready to make that change. When I had this meeting with the teachers and my mum, and they were saying, you know, you can stay at this school if you change, and I didn't like them telling me I had to change because I wasn't ready. And it's not that I wasn't ready, they didn't understand me, you know, they didn't understand what I was hiding from them, what I was hiding from my mum, what I was hiding from my family, what I was hiding from my friends. I was hiding so much because I was suppressing so much, because I was trying to escape it. You know, from one high school, I went to another high school for 1 year, and then I lasted at that high school for a year, and that caused me even more pain. The friends that I was with at school introduced me to a world that I suppose I didn't know of, and I was probably more oblivious to it. I didn't really take much notice of it or think about it until they told me about it. And, you know, it's like, oh, do you want to do this? And, you know, I didn't really think about it, and I just said yes, and, you know, with experimenting with illegal drugs. And one thing led to another, and unfortunately things took a different turn in my life where it was a way to escape the reality that I was living. So at the time I didn't really know what I was doing. I was really good at hiding it from my family, so they didn't really know what was going on in my life. They didn't know that I was skipping school and, you know, meeting up with me and my friends would skip school to meet up and smoke or whatever and do things that we shouldn't be doing, and putting myself in situations that opened up my world, my eyes to a world that I don't think any child should have to see, but it does. It happens. It happens that you meet one wrong person. I also was psychologically not well either. I was weak. And I suppose the enemy knew that I was weak. So he knew how to, lure me into his trap of making me do more of the wrong thing to hurt my soul even more. A lot of the times I wanted to say no to things. I was too scared to because I didn't want to be alone. When you're not on these substances, you become even more angry. But then, so it's only when I was at home I wasn't, I was just an angry person because I needed to get out and I needed to have, that happy feeling again. Because being at home, I was angry, I was hurt with everyone. It was their fault, but it was my fault. And that's what was always going through my mind and my heart. It was their fault, it was my fault. And I just hated the world. After leaving school and then working, I started to obviously meet different people. I wasn't around school kids all the time. I was actually around adults and then I was meeting obviously different people, making new friends. And this one friend that I made, she wasn't much older, maybe in her early 20s, but she was working where I was working, at my mum's salon, and my aunties, they had a salon. So I met her, and we would talk, and she would talk to me, and she didn't really talk to me about God or anything like that. She was just very bubbly, very friendly, and she one day invited me to a concert, and I was like, oh, cool, concert? Yeah, I'll go to a concert. Like back then I was always going to, it was all under 18 stuff, but, it was always parties and things like that. So when she said a concert, I said, oh, I'll go, yeah. She invited me. And my cousin and I attended a concert. It was a Christian concert. I was a bit reluctant to go, but I still went, only because I wasn't really sure whether I should go, but we were invited, and I'm like, come on, let's just go. So she came with me, and yeah, it was beautiful. There was like praise and worship, and there was singing, and then there came a moment where they called people to come down to and receive some prayer. If you feel like you've been touched, just come down and receive prayer. Walking down to go and receive this prayer, they started praying, and I think not within whatever they were saying, like it was about healing, and maybe, I don't know, but I remember at one point I just started, they were just pouring down. First it started little tears, and then those little tears just became bigger tears, and then it was like a full, when you cry. I can laugh about it now, but back then I was not laughing. It was full sobbing, like you're trying to catch your breath because you can't even keep up with your tears. Like and they were coming out, and I know that what I was hearing and what I was receiving were two different things. I think at one point what I was hearing didn't matter because it was what was coming to me. It was far more precious than what I was hearing. I think I forgot the words after that because it was just, my heart was just like healing. I've never received that before, like not even a hug from my mum. I could get that. It was like God was hugging me. That's what it was. It was like Christ just came down and just held me, and I just cried in his arms. I was able to forgive my dad. I was able for leaving and that hurt me a lot. And I was able to love him the way a daughter should love a father. I could never do that before. I was able to forgive my abuser, which was also, in a way for me to liberate myself from that, and to take back what was rightfully mine, my childhood. Yeah, it was beautiful. He was able to just fix everything. The torture, the torment, brokenness, the insecurities, the rejection, the loneliness. He just took it all away. And I remember leaving that concert like I had wings. I was walking on clouds. It's like I just came off a different person. So now Christ in my life, it's a whole new level. It's a whole new chapter. I always trusted that God was with me, no matter what. Like, I knew that where I was, God placed me there. That there was this different trust. There was this different surrendering to the will of God. But I got still caught up in motherhood, in still ways of this world, but not so much like before. I just almost, life got busy. I mean, kids are just a different kettle of fish and a different ball game. It's not like I'm looking after myself. I'm looking after them as well. So I suppose from me being able to forgive, I was able to build my relationship with my dad, with my family, rebuild all that for myself as well. Healing myself, forgiving myself a lot. That was hard. So when I got married, I still slightly had a little bit of unforgiveness for myself. I still felt like sometimes I walked with that unforgiveness, but I think meeting my husband, you build like a different relationship with Christ. You're not, you become one in Christ. And I can understand that in a beautiful way now, which I didn't know that before. I know that it's like, a priest who will become a priest, and that's his vocation. My vocation now is with my husband, and Christ is in the center of it. He's at the core of it, and every time I can forgive him or he can forgive me, I know that's Christ. And I would have not known that before. I would have not had that faith. I would have not had that understanding. About a year ago now, I started walking with the new catechumenal way, and that's really taught me how to grow with Christ in my marriage. It's really helped me through all the catechesis that I've been sitting in. We celebrate the Word, we celebrate the Eucharist. I still attend Mass as much as I can during the week, because that to me is like food for my soul. It's the reason why I'm able to give so much of myself to my family, my friends, and really give back to God in whatever way He calls me to. I never expected to have 4 children where I am now, and I'm grateful every day for them. And I just feel like everything's a blessing now. Everything. I wake up, I thank God. It's just a blessing. Like my children they're beautiful children. Obviously I want them to be able to discover their own faith, and not, obviously I'm going to guide them and as much as I can, but I know that they have to build their own relationship with God in their own way, not a way that I can force it on them, because I know that it can't be forced. I grew up in a Catholic family, and my faith wasn't forced, but it was implanted. It was a seed. So I'm blessed to have a beautiful husband that supports my walk in life, that supports my faith, that supports my children. And I suppose now, if something tries to break me or something tries to hurt me, I can laugh it off. I can just say to the enemy, you know what, you haven't got the upper hand, God does. And I wouldn't be able to say that before. Like, it's like I can laugh at him in a sense because I know who's stronger and I know who's won the battle. I have taken my eyes off Jesus many times, but he never took his eyes off me. I am far from perfect. When I go to pray, I'm able to find his graces and his mercy being poured into my soul. In my imperfections, he makes me whole again. And it's there that I realize that Jesus is my savior. Without him, I wouldn't be half the daughter of God or the wife or the mother or the friend that I am now.
A lot of talk in our church today about the new evangelization, and we might ask, well, what's new about the new evangelization? One thing that's new is that we're trying to renew the faith in people who should already be Catholic, should already be Christian. Individuals, families, communities, whole cultures that need to rediscover the gospel. And so what's new is that they're getting a new shot in the arm of faith, of evangelization. But another thing that's new about it is the way that we do that. And the new media and groups like Shalom World TV are very important for bringing the gospel anew to our cultures, to our families, to each of us individually. And so I encourage all the viewers of Shalom World TV, and I encourage Shalom World TV themselves to keep up the good work, to keep watching this channel and to keep up the good work of presenting the Catholic faith to our world today.